I am a co-founder of Cavu, so I've been involved with Cavu from its inception. That was June 2020. My business partners and myself founded the company to play into what we believe is an imminent, long-lasting supply and demand imbalance in copper that will drive prices higher as the world moves towards green technologies. About myself, I'm a geologist by trade. I came to Canada in 2012 to pursue a PhD after working in Australia's goldfields. And since I finished my dissertation in 2017, I've been active in the junior mining space, looking for both precious and base metals.
Fantastic. And I mean, over the course of your trajectory upwards, I mean, have you adhered to a particular philosophy in terms of achieving success, or I mean, has it all been somewhat organic?
My own personal path has been organic in nature, I like to think, but in terms of exploration, let's define success. Success is finding a mineable deposit, whereas unsuccessful exploration is searching for it, or in some cases, pretending to search for it. All exploration companies evaluate projects, and in many cases, these projects are disproven to contain mineable deposits. And because this search is so inherent in our business, exploration is essentially a research-driven or intellectual capital business. So, if world-class deposit would be easy to find, there wouldn't be a looming copper deficit. So I try to bring the right intellectual capital to the right projects and potential mineral systems so that they can be efficiently explored for. At the same time, I try to cultivate a process for that research together with our Vice President of Exploration, Dr. Luke Bickerton. He also draws upon a strong combined academic and industry experience.
Could you give me a wider overview of the company, of your projects, and the minerals you're searching for?
Cavu Mining is a copper exploration company, first and foremost. Some of our projects are polymetallic, but we really aim for copper. And so our business is to find copper projects to develop into proven copper resources that may be used to fill that coming supply deficit as the world transitions to green technologies. Cavu's main focus is the Hopper project in Yukon Territory. It's a large porphyry skarn project that we have the right to earn a 70% interest in through a deal with Strategic Metals. And the Hopper is a massive copper target with copper mineralization at surface over a length of more than 1.3 kilometers. Over the past 6 months, we've also proven the existence of a linked porphyry system with our first drilling on the claim. And these systems, it's important to understand that porphyry copper systems are among the largest types of copper systems in the world. And so we're very happy with the discovery. And Cavu is now planning a larger program and more comprehensive drilling program to start in the late spring of 2022.
I mean, how competitive is the space? And I mean, what are the key challenges, obstacles, threats, and of course, opportunities that are facing you guys at the moment?
Yeah, so copper itself, copper has, it's a really interesting commodity. It's recently emerged from a protracted bear market. The last time that copper traded over $3.50 was in February 2013. Since February 2021, copper has traded over $4. And so for miners that have a margin, maybe, or a cost of mining of $2.50 to $3 per pound, that is, that they see their revenues increase massively. So in that sense, we're in a bull market for copper right now. In the intervening 8 years between 2013 and 2021, copper has seen very little capital expenditures to maintain supply. And so most copper mines that are very long of tooth, they exist in our mind for several decades, and there really aren't the same kind of projects to take over when these systems reach their end of mine life. And so the lack of developed and permitted projects, that's really where Cavu comes in. There's a risk associated with that lack of capital expenditures in copper exploration. But that risk is the same thing that benefits early investors and companies in the space, because the copper price has to rise farther once deficits become too unbearable. And so that's when that capital expenditures returns en masse. The biggest tailwind for copper, as you mentioned, is the green revolution. It's the transition to electric vehicles, renewable energy. But interestingly, most investors in the sector focus on battery metals. And so things that make batteries, nickel, cobalt, lithium. But that's only part of that energy transition, because you have to store energy, but of course you also have to transport it. And copper is one of the most affordable conductive elements. It's also very malleable, which is why you can string it in these tiny little copper wires. And so anything electric will use copper. And in that sense, copper may have the best macro fundamental outlook of any commodity.
I mean, are you kind of integrating kind of digital technologies into your own operations, or do you have plans to do so?
We use a variety of tools for exploration, and these tools and technologies, they're of course constantly evolving. We use our tools based on what we think is the best fit at the moment. And so, for example, a couple technologies we can talk about is one is drone technology, which can now be used to collect aerial photos at very high resolution. So the aircraft that do this have become unmanned, they're battery powered. And thanks to powerful computers, we can use these aerial photos, stitch them together in a 3D image of entire projects, and that gives us a new tool to interpret subtle changes in the landscape, etc. And we can do that without having to step on the ground. So these are things that are in the end, excuse me, more cost effective if combined with those more traditional methods. We also have freely available multispectral data over large parts of the world now. It's another recent exploration tool. Satellites collect multiple frequencies of invisible light. We can process that to increased computer power in our own office computers. And these satellite data can be used to highlight prospective areas for a range of elements and reduce the impact on the ground again. And so in our workflows, we try to integrate anything that can help, of course. It's a research-driven approach in exploration. But we use those in combination with traditional methods such as boots on the ground, sampling and prospecting, etc. And the combination is what we think gives us the most value. So sometimes that may be artificial intelligence. There's been a lot of excitement around AI in the mining space recently, and sometimes, you know, it's the more traditional things. But we'll always focus on what we think will allow us to build value in our projects as quick as we can.
You know, I mean, have you had any difficulty kind of finding the right people, bearing in mind there's a bull market and probably a shortage of good geologists and so on and so forth?
I think people are everything, and great people combined with the right teamwork will lead to great products, whether that product is drill core or an investor presentation or a copper resource. But our operations ramp up over the summer and they reduce over the winter, because it's seasonal work. Of course, the time that we can work most cost efficiently and effectively is in spring and summer and early fall. And so, but our hiring for the exploration work is usually short term. The only two full-time people on for Cavu are Dr. Luke Bickerton and myself. And as I mentioned before, exploration is, you know, about bringing the right intellectual capital to the right rocks. For our exploration programs, we try to hire locally so that the benefits of our economic activity benefits the local communities. We also try to work with local communities to allow them to acquire the training they need to be involved in our programs. One example of a local company is Castle Rock Enterprises, which is a Champagne and Asiac First Nations run company. We explore in the Champagne and Asiac First Nations traditional territory. And they've been a tremendous help to our program. They have created all of the roads on the Hopper project since 2015. We renamed the main high-grade copper skarn zone Copper Castle to give them credit for their work. And another thing that you may have noticed from our news over the summer is that we now have Mr. Alan Azurza on our advisory board. He is of the Tahltan First Nation, which is very used to mining and exploration on their traditional land, and are progressive in that way. And he advises Cavu on, for example, community matters, and helps to think of ways in which Cavu may support local hiring. So we're very happy to have him on the advisory board as well.
Do you guys have a formal sustainability program in place?
It was, mining and exploration is an interesting industry when it comes to sustainability, in the sense that it takes thousands to millions of years to create, for example, a copper deposit, and likely only several decades to mine it, which is inherently unsustainable, because we can't replace the copper deposits at the rate that we mine them, right? So maybe it's not the right term to use, but at the same time, mining, and especially mining for those battery elements and copper that we talked about, it's an integral piece to the decarbonization of the world. And so we may be able to do without oil and gas as an energy source, but we certainly will need to mine more and different metals to do so. So what's different now, mostly when we talk about sustainability in mining, what is different now than several decades ago is that we can now accurately monitor our environmental footprint and the environmental disturbance from our work, so that mining and exploration occurs with minimal disturbance to the flora and fauna. And we're happy to be part of this movement towards low disturbance work, where if metals are not encountered in significant quantities, or after the extraction of the metals, an area can be remediated so that flora and fauna will move back in, and there's no long-term ill effect. And one story from close by Vancouver, where I'm based, and I'm looking out over the water from my office, in the Howe Sound, a local water body, there is a large old mine called the Britannia mine, which is now remediated to a point where we regularly see whales and other animals in the Howe Sound again. And that wasn't the case after the 70s when the mine closed. And so, we have the technology to do really well. We now also have the laws in place to do really well. We know how to remediate these projects, and that's what we want to do.
I mean, have there been any kind of recent, super notable talking points, like new discoveries, or the construction of new facilities, or new contracts, or the like?
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. 2021 has been an incredible year for Cavu. We listed on we're a young company, of course, and so we listed on the Canadian Security Exchange in February, closed the deal on the Hopper project in Yukon in March, and proceeded with our first drill program very shortly after, which was incredibly successful. We drilled the longest high-grade copper intercept ever on that high-grade zone, Copper Castle, that I talked about, and that is a hole which confirms that the zone is open for expansion. It also indicates that the highest grade portion of the claim might actually be undrilled. So this has opened up a very large potential area of copper mineralization for us. And another area on the Hopper claim that we drilled the first true porphyry style mineralization. And so this is a place where, if we look at the mineralogy and the type of mineralization we see, we believe that we're on the edge of what might be a world-class copper porphyry system.
So, I mean, what are your objectives and goals over the short to medium term?
We are currently going through the permitting process for advanced exploration on our Kitimat project. I haven't, this will allow for advanced exploration on both the Hopper and Kitimat in 2022. And so in the next year, you can expect larger exploration programs, which will yield more drilling results and, a quicker or more compressed timeline to build the value in our projects. And we're actively working towards building those copper resources. We also expect to keep working towards a bigger copper portfolio. So we are actively looking for additional projects.